Welcome back to the Cinema Condition with your host, filmmaker and creator of the Nerdcore Podcast Network, Raul Alejandro Mendoza. And as always, we are back for another movie with another guest. And today we are inviting back for the last time during season 1, Mr. Alex Flores to cover 1988's revolutionary anime film, Akira. And yeah, Alex was here before. We talked about Logan on episode 21, I believe. 21. And now he's back for another one for his last time. And he's going to be coming back next season for his first movie that he picked, which was Watchmen. Not Watchmen. The Big Lebowski. There, I just went ahead.
Big Lebowski.
Yeah, I went ahead and just spoiled the second pick that he made, but it's all good. It happens. But Alex is back. And how are you doing, friend?
I'm good. I'm just living and pretty much just living. Trying to survive the ongoing pandemic we have going on.
Yup. I believe we have not been put into shelter in place yet. We're kind of they still haven't decided to do that yet. And we're just kind of staying in our homes right now. I know that you're working remotely, right?
Yes, sir. I'm working straight from home. I'm working right in my living room.
That's good, man. At least they don't got you going to the actual offices at the university.
No. They've actually been telling us there at TSC that they do not want us approaching the offices. They don't want us going there unless we absolutely business to conduct. They're like, as long as the students aren't here, you're not coming back. So
they're like, so get the fuck out of here. You better not come even close to where we are at right now.
Yeah, because it's the same thing they're telling the students. It's like, unless you have business to conduct here, don't be coming here to hang around.
Yeah. So, last time you were on, we were talking about Logan. And that episode did pretty damn good. People enjoyed it. And now you're back. This movie specifically, you made someone mad for choosing. And Brad said that out of protest, he's not going to be listening to this episode.
Okay. So this is where I just put the obligatory fuck Brad.
Yup. Next time, Brad, I think what Alex wants to say is that Brad next time needs to message me earlier.
Get on the ball, dude. Get a better imagination. I'm getting those movies. I'm getting them like that.
Like that. Yeah. So we're here to discuss 1988's Akira. And I want to say, first of all, thank you guys for the love on last week's episode. You guys really you guys really seem to enjoy that. So I want to thank you guys so much. We're on the last couple of episodes here, man. I was really happy that you guys enjoyed the farewell episode, but we're approaching the end, man. And as I have to explain again, is once we finish off with the season, we take like a month and a half break here, and then we come back for the second season, and then we'll see how long we need to take to finish the second season. But the feed will be without episodes for about like a month and a half, and I will be scheduling the first 5, and then we'll get to doing those, and we'll be on our way to conducting season 2 of the Cinema Condition. So I've been having a lot of fun, and I've been having a really good time with discussing films with various guests. And next season has a lot of new guests coming on, so it's going to be really, really interesting. But we're here to discuss this movie, of course, and we've never really discussed this. We never even discussed this director. I don't think this director has made any other films, has he? I think he's made like a couple of shorts.
He's made shorts. He's made a few other like anime movies, one live action movie, but he kind of just sticks to his own stuff.
Yeah, so he kind of sticks to what's it called, just anime and manga, but he doesn't really make, he's made two. What's it called? Live action films. World Apartment Horror in 91, and then 2006 is Mushishi. Yeah, Mushishi. And he's got, of course, two projects incoming. Of course, if you guys don't know, there is going to be it's safe to call it a reboot, right? Or a readaptation?
Yeah, I'd say a remake is a better assessment of it, because it's going to stick to what original film covered, but it's also going to go past the original film, since the original film was... I just think it's crazy, because the dude was like, oh, I haven't even finished the manga, but you know what? I'm going to create this movie.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, who we are talking about right now is the director known as Katsuhiro Otomo, or Otomo Katsuhiro, as it is pronounced on both. You could say it with the first name first or last name first. Doesn't matter. But yeah, no, Katsuhiro. So he, of course, he's mostly known for a manga artist and a manga writer, penciler, writer, and what's it called, artist. He's been working pretty much in manga since '73, with A Gun Report being his first one, and then his recent one was 2012's DJ Tech's Morning Attack. But when it comes to a film, he's directed a bunch of shorts. So he did a segment for his first ever segment short film was in 1987, called Neo Tokyo, which was the film, but his segment was called Construction Cancellation Order. And then, of course, he would go on to make another short the same year, and then in '88 he would, of course, make Akira, which was an adaptation of his manga that he did not even finish yet, but he made a film adaptation of it. And then he makes his first live-action film, of course, World Department Horror in '91, makes another short film in '95, makes Steam Boy, the next anime film, in 2004, then makes another live-action film, which I already discussed in 2006, which I already talked about, which was Mushishi. And then 2013, he makes another short film called Short Piece. A segment called Combustible in the short film in the film Short Piece. And then, of course, he has Orbital Era and Akira, the anime series that are coming to be announced. He's also a screenwriter. He's done a lot of other stuff, but I mean, this is a man who basically kind of revolves around just either anime or manga. And
it's basically just his passion. And one thing to say is that also at the time, given the production budget that Akira had, it was actually the most expensive film that an anime film ever did.
Mm-hmm.
It was 700 million yen, about $5.5 million.
Yeah. And what's it called? Besides his work in animation, of course, he contributed his art to anime as varied as the Genma Taisen movie, Harmageddon, the Cruiser Joe movie, and a special Gundam anniversary short film, the 7-part OVA series Freedom Project, and of course Space Dandy episode 22. So he has been working around a lot since the 70s. And of course, I forgot to mention he was born in April 14, 1954 in what's it called? In Miyagi Prefecture, Japan. Prefecture.
Yeah, prefecture.
Miyagi Prefecture, Japan. And yeah, what were you gonna say, bro?
Oh no, I was just like, no, he's just been all over the place, you know. He's critically acclaimed, you know.
Oh yeah.
There's not like there's all his awards here. He's an American Eisner Award winner, which means he's an Eisner Hall of Famer, which manga artists don't usually get. It says here he's the 4th ever manga artist to ever do it. Would probably be, I think first would probably be like Osamu Tezuka, the one that created Astro Boy and stuff like that. He'd probably be the first one, but to win an Eisner is a very prestigious thing in the world of comic books here in the U.S.
Yep. He wins a Harvey Award in '93. He won an Annie Award in 2014. And I'm not going to pronounce this correctly, but apparently this is a Lifetime Achievement Award given annually during the, what's it called, in the comics world. So it's the Grand Prix de la Ville d'Angoulême. I don't know how to pronounce that correctly, but I tried my best there. And yeah, he's critically acclaimed and a very, very, very important director, director and artist within the manga and anime world. Not as, the name isn't really as synonymous with anime like, Hayao Miyazaki is, or, Makoto Shinkai as of late, but, it is a very, very, a big name because it is pretty much attached to the movie that put anime in the map.
Yeah, here in the U.S., we did have anime. You had your Speed Racers, your Kimbo the White, all various sorts of different anime. But I think Akira is what the U.S. received that, was like, oh, wow, this is what anime and animation can really do.
Yeah. So,
and not even just the film's impact, but one of the first manga to ever be localized in in the States was Akira through Marvel Comics' imprint Epic Comics.
Mm-hmm.
They actually took the original Akira manga and said, "Hey, can we put this in the U.S. and can we localize it?" And he's like, "Yeah." He even worked on the manga when they were localizing it through Epic Comics by redrawing a lot of the panels because they were going to do it through the traditional American left to right format, and he didn't want his artwork mirrored. So he's like, "You know what? I'll help you rearrange the panels. Well, I'll even redraw panels if I need to, so it can be able to fit y'all style more."
Yeah, he seems like a man who's like really careful with his work. Like, that's just, he wants to have the say in how things are done, and I mean, you can really tell that this came from the person who worked on the manga when you watch this movie.
Yeah, and he was very from what I've always read, he was very hesitant to make the Akira movie. It wasn't something that he ever really thought was going to happen. He never really thought about it or even wanted it to be. But when they started giving him a little bit more free reins and said, "You know what, you can do it. Well, we'll let you have all free reign," he's like, "Let's go for it."
So, this also, before we start this, I will preface this, that this is a movie that has been gone through several iterations to get it off the ground as a live-action remake here in the States. Of course, before Taika Waititi would get his hands on it, I believe it was Leonardo DiCaprio who was trying to produce.
His production company.
Yeah.
His production company wanted to take care of it.
Yeah, he wanted to take care of it. And then, of course, it would get a bunch of ground going when Taika Waititi was going to be the one set to direct the film. But then Taika ended up taking Thor: Love and Thunder, and that was pushed to the back burner, and now has actually been placed on hold, on indefinite hold. So this is one of the movies that, even as big as it was here in the United States for anime, they have still tried to make it into a live-action film. But it seems that it's not working out right now. They don't seem to want. They cannot seem to get it off the ground. But Alex, first of all, before we actually talk about just how big this freaking movie is, because there's a reason Brad wanted to talk about this, because he is the closest one to us who probably watched it in the first 5 years that it came out. Let's be honest. Yeah. I'm like, Old man Brad was born in I think 87 or 86, and he probably watched it in 92 or 93, if I can remember. I don't remember too well, but why? So I gave you this film, of course. I asked you, "Hey, you want to do it?" And you said, "Hell yeah." Why would you agree to do this movie, man?
I think the reason why I wanted to do this film is because, it's a beautiful film, and a lot of this film really stands the test of time on just animation quality. It's still so beautiful to watch, all this cell-drawn animation to this very day. Just, it holds up to the test of time. It's remarkable in what it's done for the cyberpunk genre. I think probably wouldn't have as big a cyberpunk genre as without this movie. I mean, without this movie, would we have a Ghost in the Shell? Would we have anything else that the anime and manga world really produced in terms of cyberpunk? Shit, would we even have a Cowboy Bebop later on down the line, about a decade later?
Yep. Yeah, and sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just that also just what this movie did for the U.S. in terms of the respect that it gave anime. Because, I mean, you look at a lot of the anime that we had Gigantor, we had Speed Racer, we had Kimbo the White Lion, we had so many other localizations of different, anime, but it was still seen in the mix of cartoons and just stuff like that, and more child-friendly media. When this came out, it's this. I don't think that it just legitimized anime. I think it legitimized animation as a whole. And anyone that knows me knows that I'm a huge animation fan, and I think that animation allows things to be limited. There's things that you can do in animation that you could never even dream of doing in live action.
100%. And I think that this, not other than being a revolutionary film, it really does change the conversation to looking at animation as also an adult-oriented field. Because, of course, we at this time, you have a bunch of Disney movies coming out and stuff, right? Of course, that's animation. And people think, oh, it's really mostly for children. But then this comes out, and the conversation's completely changed. It's completely changed. And we're looking at animation more as a ground for adult-oriented stories as well. And it's just, it further kind of legitimizes the genre as a whole. And, especially what we're going to get after this, you start getting probably incredible, like, going into the next decade, we start seeing some of the greatest works of all time. And you really start seeing incredible work in the 90s that is playing off the fact of that kind of Akira did legitimize this genre that we were seeing.
Yeah, because I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, you think about it, and like you have Mamoru Oshii directing the Ghost in the Shell film in '95.
Mm-hmm.
Would we have done a Ghost in the Shell film in '95? I mean, even Matsumura Shido, who created the Ghost in the Shell manga, it was well after Akira. Akira was in work like publishing wise since '82. So It was almost towards the end of the decade before we got a Ghost in the Shell. So could Matsumura Shido have done the Ghost in the Shell manga and Mamoru Oshii do the Ghost in the Shell anime film had there not been an Akira?
100%, man. I don't think so. I think that this movie and, of course, Blade Runner are the main factors as to why cyberpunk is where it's at. And this really, I think you cannot have a Ghost in the Shell without Blade Runner or Akira. And it's very, very, very poignant.
I mean, you think about it, what else? Hold up. I'm trying to remember the name of the movie, the Josh Trank movie that was like the only recognizable thing he ever did.
Chronicle,
yeah. Chronicle was always, according to him, his way of trying to make Akira.
Yeah. He talked about that on on the Mina podcast when they had him interview him for Capone, and he talked about that. That's kind of what I kind of wanted to make Akira, and it would be really interesting to me to kind of imagine if they gave Josh Trank, the live action version of Akira. And, somebody who actually really respects that, probably would make it as close to as possible as the source material as possible, man. But yeah, I want to get into this, man. Of course, before we actually talk, like I said, there's a reason, man. I mean, this movie really, anime was happening before this, right? And, like you're saying, you had Kimbo the White Lion, you had all these other films, and all the other, series. But this really does pop it off, man. I mean, we really do see a spike in anime after this. And, I believe Mosu Gundam was in 82, right?
Gundam?
Yeah.
The original Gundam series was actually the late 70s.
Oh, wait. I'm thinking about the first one, Mobile Suit Gundam.
Yeah, Mobile Suit Gundam was the very first Mobile Suit Gundam anime. Oh, no, it's 81.
81, yeah, I think 82 or something around there. But
I'm thinking something else. It ran from 81. No, actually, right here. The original run of the original Mobile Suit Gundam anime ran from 79 to 80.
Okay.
Right before it was canceled.
Okay. Well, yeah. So, like I said, you have these big things like Gundam before this, but in the States, it pops off. Anime pops off with Akira, and I gotta say, what's it called? Do you remember the first time you ever watched this movie?
I was a freshman in college.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When I first watched it, and it was like, whoa.
Yeah. Yep. I remember vividly, bro. So of course I've always been into anime myself. I never knew about Akira. I mean, my big brother would talk about Akira, but he knew that it was this big thing, and I checked it out my first spring year of college, and like boom, like wow, I was like holy crap, like this was incredible. I love this movie, and I wasn't like I was really into the animation and everything, but like I always was kind of fascinated by things like the music in the film and all that stuff. And I believe the music was scored before the actual film was worked on, correct?
I believe so.
Which is crazy. And apparently, the music takes a lot of influence from Indonesian instruments.
Yes.
And it's crazy that when we think about this movie, like not many people bring up the music at first, but that was the first thing that stood out to me. The music is incredible in this movie, and I really have to bring that up before we get into like major topics about this movie. And the music is incredible to me. I think that it really does elevate the way that the movie presents itself and the way that we are kind of consuming some of those really, really high octane moments in the film. And it's all really, due to this incredible score that's just done throughout this whole film.
Yeah, no, the score really hammers it home into the frantic nature of this film. The movie is frantic. The movie is just all out intense. When they have all those bike chases between the rival gangs, you're feeling that intensity, just like whoa.
Yep.
You're feeling the tension. You're just feeling that tension.
Mm-hmm. And of course, and also, just the production, the animation design. The small stuff like the lights. The when the motorcycles are riding and you see the lights tracing and stuff like that, like just stuff like that kind of really just create the atmosphere of this film. And of course, this movie is actually set in the past now because we are in the year 2020. This movie is set in 2019. And now we're going to get into it. I got to actually describe. Akira basically is about this bike gangs who are living in what is known as Neo-Tokyo after the old city of Tokyo was destroyed by a singularity explosion.
Yes.
And we have these little children called Espers who seem to hold very godlike powers. And when one of them is escaped from a facility and crashes with one of the bike gang members, Tetsuo, we kind of start seeing a spiral of events of how Neo-Tokyo is trying to, get used to the idea of these type of creatures out, but also Tetsuo trying to find out what the hell is going on with him, and his friends Kaneda and Kai and Koi trying to help them out and trying to rescue their friend. So of course this movie was released in 88, and you look at 88, by the way. Fun fact for you guys. We've been doing a lot of movies from 88 on this podcast. Damn, 88 is basically the 2019 of the 80s, man. There was a lot of crazy good stuff that was coming out in 88. Like everybody who was listening to the podcast, the other main show, like last year, we had an incredible year of movies. And if you go and look at the stuff that was released in 88, wow. I mean, you had a lot of great stuff being released in 88, dude. So, let's go ahead and get into... I can't really start this conversation about the movie without kind of discussing the whole city of Neo-Tokyo, Alex. I mean, it's incredible how relevant this movie is, especially right now, too. I mean, Neo-Tokyo is plagued with corruption, with police brutality, with a military-industrial complex, with class divisions, and you have all these crazy stuff that is kind of very reminiscent of the world that we're kind of living in at the moment.
Yeah, no, the world is plagued with a lot of, I would call it maybe like a militarization. Yeah. There's heavy military presence trying to, ramble up everybody. There's these spikes of rebellion, there's these spikes of just gang violence, terrorism, anti-government, all sorts of stuff that it's just kind of scary how much it mirrors what's going on right now.
Yeah. And so the first thing that we kind of learn about within the whole world of Neo-Tokyo is, of course, first of all, the gangs that kind of are trying to control Neo-Tokyo. But you also learn about protests that were happening. And some of the most, hard to watch moments of this movie is just the fact when the military starts opening fire on just the civilians. And I don't think this movie is able to be as serious as it is. Excuse me, without the characterization of Neo-Tokyo. I mean, Neo-Tokyo really is its own character here, and it's crazy how relevant it is now, right? But also just how presentable it is. Like, it's not presented as this very sexy looking thing, but it's a very ugly thing that you want to look like. When we go into the old city, it's all broken down, of course. But when we're in Neo-Tokyo, there's just this disgusting feeling that you get from looking at it because of what is going down there.
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment. I think what Otomo does great in both the manga and in the anime is just create this ugly, grim reality of just these hardened people having to do this terrible thing. Like, they could have very much have died in the same predicament that destroyed the original Tokyo.
Mhm.
A lot of these families could have just died off, and boom, they would have never, these family lines would never continue again. So a lot of these people are living hardened by it. They raise their children to be hardened by it. Their children have to face this oppressive government, this heavy military presence that will gun down any civilian should they choose to. You're being too much of a protester, boom, gun down.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like I said, it's just wild because I mean, you turn on the news today, we're seeing the same. I mean, just what's been happening in Portland and New York, man. Fucking police just snatching people outside in the streets, taking them into their cars, and like basically kidnapping civilians or protesters, opening fire, not opening fire, but like what's it called, shooting them with rubber bullets and throwing tear gas and mace, and it's like. It's crazy how a film that was released in '88, 20, I want to say 30. Actually, hold on,
Bit over 20.
bit
Bit
over
over
25.
bit over 30 actually. Yeah, a bit over 30.
Yeah, like around 30 some years later, it's way more relevant than it was back then.
Yeah, no, definitely way more relevant. And I think it's just scary how relevant it is.
Yeah. And I agree with you. I think what's it called, Neo Tokyo is very militarized. I mean, they basically, when everything starts going south and the actual military can't get their way, they just stage a coup d'etat.
Yeah.
They try to overthrow the government because they're trying to limit their power, and also something that kind of really sticks out to me is just how the military has a very big not distaste, but they're in ignorance towards science. Like they're like, okay, get these kids back into the lab so we can keep experimenting, but it's not for like information, more of a power structure.
Yeah, no, it's them trying to maintain power. It's them trying to be like, I want to make sure that we are the power, we are the superpower of this society, or someone tries to take it away from us.
Yeah. And then those power structures are mirrored as well within the civilians because, these gangs that are basically made of childhood friends, and they're basically trying to have like, oh, like you're the leader, right? And like, the reason why Tetsuo is so cold towards Kaneda is because, he feels as if he's always been treated as less than. And there's always been a really big hierarchy within the gang where Kaneda is supposed to be, bigger than Tetsuo.
Yeah.
So it's rather interesting because, and also, by the way, I mean, they get labeled as terrorists, but the actual way that the people within the gangs treat themselves is a lot better than the way that the military treats themselves in this movie.
Oh, definitely. I think the gangs are more in touch with reality, definitely, than the military is. The military is like stripped of its morality, its humanity, and it's just like, you know what? I just want power.
Yeah. And that's really what defines the world of Neo Tokyo in this film. That I think that's what Katsuhiro Otomo does so incredibly well. It's just kind of creating this world that is very grim, very, very mundane, because it's being ruled by this systemic power structure that has placed the military and government way above everybody else and these normal civilians, where things like being shot in public are happening in this film. So I want to go ahead and continue on with that. When you look at the actual talking about the scientific experiments that they're doing on these kids, and how, God, I when that moment happens, when they're in the other dimension and they get those flashbacks right to the childhood and how Akira was created, and it's just like it's crazy how basically the government is snatching these kids and basically turning them into their own puppets and basically using them for themselves only.
Yeah, no, it's crazy just how much they're just taking these kids, and it's like, oh look, we have little human weapons, and it's just like, well, let's just little guys use it to our advantage. They're basically little atomic bombs just waiting to go off. But you know what? Let's just take.
Yeah, but sadly, unlike atomic bombs, these children are able to think for themselves, and when they try to escape, they sadly cannot escape as well as you want them to, because they sadly are going to be kept, because the military is such a prominent force within. They're going to be brought back to the lab. But it's like I said, it's interesting how all of these are children, children who are innocent and they're not rid of there's not much sin within them, right? They're innocent people who have not been corrupted yet by the society that they live in, even though they've been experimented by them. But you have these kids, and that's why I think it brings in a really, really interesting conversation that I'm going to bring towards the end of this podcast about the whole side of divine entities in this movie.
Oh, and boy, there's a big focus on divine entities, and I just think that it's crazy. Like, all these kids are just trying to run away and just be kids. Like, they were taken at a young age, and it's just. It's more so the circumstance of, I was born with this ability, and now the government's trying to take me and use me as a weapon just for their own power play.
Yeah, before I can even understand the world that I live in, I've already been snatched. I'm being experimented on, and I'm being basically used and being corrupted by these people who don't really have any sense of care in the world for me. They don't care for me. They're just wanting to use me as a puppet, and then when I'm not useful anymore, I'll be tossed aside. And even though I'm being kept in a facility that's pretty nice, it still doesn't matter. Like, you're still being experimented on and being tormented. It's just like it's interesting because we did Logan last time, and it's like compared to the situations that those kids were living in Logan to these, they were still being mistreated.
Yeah, no, they were just basically pawns in a game being played by their military.
Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and continue this conversation when we come back from commercial break. But in the meantime, please listen to these commercials and ads about the rest of the shows on the Nerdcore Podcast Network. But when we come back, we will continue our conversation on 1988's Akira. And we'll see you guys after the break. Hey, I'm Raul Mendoza, and this is
Jabril Newton.
And we are the hosts of High Flyer Radio. And finally, pro wrestling has come back to the Nerdcore podcast feed in the form of a show hosted by Jabril and I. And we talk about everything and anything in the pro wrestling world on Mondays at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Nothing's off limits. Whatever you guys want to talk about, if it's from AEW to SmackDown to Raw to NXT, nothing's off the table. We can talk about it.
We're going to talk all about it. And if you can get it a day early, you should go to the www.patreon.com/thenerdcore and pledge to the tiers on there so you can get this show and a lot of shows days early before anybody else gets to hear it. But enough talking about it. We'll go ahead and see you there at the Squared Circle. Oh, yeah. Don't tap out. Tune in.
Hey, it's Ashley from the Gamer Core. You may remember me from such episodes as Big Screen Mess, Mo Money Mo Platforms, and Brad Can Read. Tune in weekly as I blab with my co-hosts Raul the Nerdy Chicano and Brad the Random Germ about the latest news in gaming and gush over what we're playing at the moment. Oh yeah, and we got the deals too. Keep up with the latest deals in gaming and what's happening as I mediate Brad and Raul fighting like a married couple. Will Death Stranding ever come out? Will Cyberpunk 2077 live up to the hype? Is a next-gen worth a $500 console price tag? And has there ever been a movie adaptation of a video game that's been done right? It's all on the Gamer Core podcast, everywhere where podcasts are.
Hey everyone, my name is Raul, the Nerdy Chicano, and I am the host of The Impaired Files. The Impaired Files is an interview show brought to you every Thursday on the Nerdcore podcast feed. And I interview people such as filmmakers, content creators on YouTube, and podcasters like Colton Geschwander. And if you want to listen to that early, a whole week early, all you got to do is go to the Patreon and pledge to the $1 tier. And if you want to listen to it with the general public, then go to the Nerdcore podcast feed on anchor.fm/thenerdcore and the case is closed, but it's not classified. See you guys there.
Hey guys, this is Brad, aka Young Yoda. Raul said I had to make an ad, so that's what I'm doing. It's supposed to be for Unstructured, but as you guys know, you can freaking catch me everywhere when it comes to this podcast feed. You can find me on the Nerd Cores, on Gamer Cores, on Nerdy Chicanos sometimes when I get lost. But for this particular one, I want you guys to go check out Unstructured. The Raul gave me free reign to do whatever I want to do. I don't know what he was thinking. So go hear me talk about LeBron James and Taco Tuesday, vaping, so many other freaking weird topics that chimichangas, that's a good one. Shout out to Deadpool. And yeah, I guess this is the end of the ad. So if you guys want to find me, you can find me all over the place on this podcast feed. Anyways, thank you guys for listening. I love you all. And nerd up.
Hello, guys and gals, and you're listening to The Ladies of Nerdcore. I am your host, Daniela Nunez, and along with my amazing co-host, Ashley Garcia, we discuss many things like social impact, pop culture, political realms, and any controversy surrounding the Nerdverse. Tune in and listen to us bi-weekly on the Nerdcore podcast feed, and we will love to chat and hear your thoughts on our wonderful show. And thank you again for listening to The Ladies of Nerdcore.
What's up, everybody? It is me, Raul, and I'm one of the hosts of the Nerdy Chicano Show. The Nerdy Chicano Show is a comedic show brought to you by Luis and myself, and it comes to you all every Sunday on the Nerdcore podcast feed. You can catch it a day early by becoming a Patreon and supporting us at the $1 tier. And I don't really know how to explain this show other than it's fun. We get to talk about whatever we want, and it helps you move on in the week. So if you want to catch the Nerdy Chicano Show every Sunday at 8 a.m. All you got to do is go to anchor.fm/thenerdcore, and we'll see you there, baby. Hey everyone, I'm Raul.
And I'm Brad.
And we're the hosts of the Nerdcore Podcast, the podcast that talks that nerd. Not on this ad, right?
Not
and
on this one.
We come to you every Monday, Tuesday, and Saturday. On the Mondays, we talk the news. That's the box office, the news of the week, and your trailer talk if there is any. And on Tuesday, we have our theme review. And on Saturday, you have a Saturday morning review, usually movies that have come out in the week or anything we want to talk about. Right, Brett?
Exactly. Whatever we want to talk about, this is our show. If you don't like it, then you don't have to listen.
We're the flagship show of the Nerdcore Podcast feed, and we can be found everywhere you can listen to podcasts like Stitcher, Apple Podcasts. So if you want to talk that nerd stuff with us every Monday, Tuesday, and Saturday, make sure you tune in. And Brad?
Young Yoda out.
All right, we're back from break, and we hope that you guys liked those ads, and you guys go and check out those shows on the Nerdcore Podcast feed. As always, remember, you can catch them on anchor.fm/thenerdcore. That is anchor.fm/thenerdcore, CORPS. And go and check them out because a lot of really talented people make a lot of really talented shows over there. And right now, we only have a couple of shows running because of the pandemic, but hopefully after everything calms down, and I don't have to, I didn't want to force anybody. So after everything calms down, hopefully we start seeing some of those shows come back. But as of right now, we only have like 3 or 4 shows running compared to our usual like 7. So, excuse me. Go and check them out, though, and leave a rate and review on your podcast app of choice to help people find those shows easier. And, yeah, this show is on the Nerdcore Podcast feed as well, but, it's backed up. So if you guys are listening on there, you're late, really late. Like, you guys are, I believe...
Get on the ball!
You guys are, like, about 5 episodes behind what we're doing. So the best place to be listening to this show is on this feed. So, but it's still on there if you want to catch a rerun. And, of course, it'll be on there. But without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get back into our conversation here on 1988's Akira. All right, Alex, we're back, and we're doing this. We're still going at this. I've got a couple of topics left I want to bring up. But we were still talking about, basically these kids being used as basically subjects and pawns. And I part of me, what's it called? It's kind of hard to look at some of the things that these kids are being put through, man. Especially in the way that, oddly enough, these kids are a whole ass different skin color than the regular citizens of Neo Tokyo, and it really kind of signifies that division in class, but also in a sense race as well, man. Like you got these kids who are completely different skin color, and they're like, hey, you know what? You guys should be the ones to be experimented on because you guys are the only ones who have powers. And it's like, oh well, none of these other fucking guys can get the powers. Of course, until we find out that the powers are actually are able to. So, are they able to be transferred to them? Alex,
I think it's vaguely covered in the movie.
Yeah,
but I think it's one of those things where the manga goes deeper into it because I don't think we really got to get a sense of that right now.
Yeah,
like in the movie. But I do think that it's able to get through because that just goes down to the whole. I think what a lot of the film boils down to is who is going to be the one to carry out the Akira project.
Yeah, and we of course get the tease that it's Tetsuo, but it's also Kai, who also is now starting to develop her own powers too, and it kind of showing that okay, we're actually able to replicate this more, and sooner or later, the people with the Akira powers are going to be outnumbering those in the military complex and actually be able to overthrow them and stage their own coup. But yeah, that was one of the questions that I had throughout this whole thing. I was like, hey man, how do they get these powers? Are like they able to transfer it? Or is it when they were crashed, like blood got on them and they were able to, absorb them or something? But I guess the movie just doesn't go into that at all.
I think that's one of the things that it just boils down to where the movie landed in terms of how far along the manga was.
Yeah.
I feel like because the film landed during the serialization of the manga, he couldn't really explore elements that he would have wanted to because, well, I still haven't made them yet. I still haven't done that yet in my own series, so can't just be giving it away in a movie.
Yep.
So I think he kind of the thing that I always think about the movie is that it has a big line of ambiguity in it.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of it's not ambiguous because of the fact that I can't finish the story yet, and it's also not ambiguous because it's like what.
Mm-hmm. And I was gonna say that last part got cut off, man. You want to bring it up again?
Yeah, no. I think that it's left. I think Otomo leaves it ambiguous for a purpose. Like, besides, the actual part where, oh, you know what? I kind of have to leave it ambiguous because I haven't finished the manga yet.
Yeah.
So why am I going to give you my story in this film?
Yeah.
When I want you to go still read the manga.
Yeah.
But I think it's also like you know what? I kind of want to leave it up to your interpretation of just what the hell's going on here.
Mm-hmm. So and also like he kind of takes a page out of a filmmaker that we're going to be discussing on the next episode. Like this movie is heavily influenced not just by Blade Runner, but the whole last segment is a whole part out of 2001: A Space Odyssey. Like the whole what's it called? That whole last segment with the visuals and then basically going back to the creation of the world. It's like he took a page out of fucking Kubrick's notebook when it comes to 2001 and leaving things really ambiguous.
Yeah, no, I really like the ambiguous nature of the film. I think it's possibly the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Especially given the circumstances. But I think that's also going to just like a random film. Annihilation. You ever seen Annihilation?
Have not had the pleasure of watching that yet, even though it's on my watch list.
It's an excellent movie. Oscar Isaac and Natalie Portman?
Natalie Portman, yeah.
Okay, so Annihilation, there was a big... It's based off of a book. It's based off of a science fiction novel. So, it's very mysterious, and it's very kind of, ambiguous. It's kind of... It doesn't give you the answers to everything. It kind of leaves it up for your own interpretation of, like, just what the fuck's going on. Mm-hmm. But it was actually a big clash between the director and the producer with the studio.
Mm-hmm.
there was a huge clash where the studio was like, we don't like this, the audience that, like, our test audience doesn't understand it. Like, they didn't like the ending, the ending was like too open, it's too ambiguous. The audience didn't like it. It's like, can you change it up a little bit? And it's like, oh, that's not what it's meant to do.
And I mean, in a sense, that's kind of how, audiences reacted to 2001 at first as well. Like, it's too ambiguous. Like, we don't understand shit. And, like, even now, people are still debating what the fuck 2001 was about.
And I think that that's not bad, because if you take a science fiction fan such as myself and you hand them this, they like that ambiguous nature.
Yeah.
It's not meant for everybody, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that we lose sense of. It's like, well, not film creators, actually. Film creators want to make their own stories, but I think in terms of, like, the heavy emphasis on the casual audience, it's like, well, I can't do that, because not every piece of media is meant for everybody.
Yeah.
Not every piece of media is meant for everybody, just like Akira. It's a very uncomfortable movie to watch sometimes, and widely acclaimed as adult animation, because that's what it is. It's an adult animation. It's not for kids. It's not meant to be, this pleasing movie. It's supposed to give you a heavy dystopian story that really just opens your eyes and makes you think, what the fuck?
Yeah. If you tell me that you were comfortable watching the military open fire on their own citizens in this film, I've got a conversation to have with you about what the hell is wrong with you. But it's true. This movie is not what's it called? It's not easy one to kind of view. It's uncomfortable seeing what how dystopian this film is. But it's rather interesting that one of the big themes in this movie is the whole theme of friendship between these in the gang. So what? By the way, I can't remember. What did they call themselves? That gang?
Kaneda's gang, I can't remember. I know that there was ones that they called, like, the clowns.
Yeah, the clowns were the rival gang.
Yeah, but I don't remember Kaneda's gang. Let me see.
I can't remember, but all I know is that they have a very strong...
The capsules.
The capsules, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a very big, strong presence of friendship within this gang, especially when you think about a gang, you think about these men who are supposed to be macho and, very, very, strong and very fierce looking. Like, these are all a bunch of regular teenage boys who cry because they thought their friend died.
Yeah, no, it's just a bunch of misfits trying to make this sense of camaraderie in a world that is just so chaotic.
Yeah. And I really do appreciate that. I think it really does emphasize that whole feeling like, yeah, there's a reason why Kadena wants to go and help out Tetsuo and wants to save him because, in that flashback, Tetsuo was Tetsuo's first friend and probably one of his most... one of the people that he appreciated the most was Kadena.
And I think it's really interesting just to, like, see, especially once Tetsuo gets the Akira powers, and just starting to see his psychological change just into this much angrier, much more cynical spirit. And, I think what the Akira powers bring out of Tetsuo is possibly letting Tetsuo have a vehicle towards those true feelings that he never really got to release out, and just how oppressed he felt within the gang structure.
Yeah. But, like, deep down inside, there was still a love and appreciation for each other that, it gets revealed in those flashbacks. Like, that you had a kid who was basically being bullied and being looked at like, like what's it called, a loner, because he lost his parents, and then he kind of finds his place in his home with his friends and his gang. But, the Akira really brings out those repressed feelings of feeling like he's not enough for this person that he looks up to and thinks of probably even more as a friend and more in the sense of a brother.
Just, the nature that it really explores in this film is crazy.
Yeah, and that whole nature of the friendship is just so I think it's great because at the end, towards the end, when they all just kind of ride off into the city, and it's like he was able to, so he loses Tetsuo, but he gains a new, that Kadena Kaneda kind of gains a new friend in Kai.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, even though we lose these people and we kind of, we try all our best to kind of bring them back and do what we can to keep them around, there's still others that can depend on us and can help us be, that we can help not feel as lonely.
I know.
Yeah. I'm sorry, man. You're cutting out. So,
no, sorry.
Yeah.
I wasn't really like finishing a thought. I was just kind of like trying to get a thought out of my mind.
No, and I really do appreciate that movie. So when I first watched this movie, that's one of the big things that I appreciate the most. But it wasn't until my second watch where I'm really like get into the politics of the film a lot, and I think the second rewatch was when I really did say, oh man, this is one of my favorite movies of all time for sure. And it wasn't until this third rewatch where it's like, dude, like there's so much stuff going on here. Like, I think that. So I want to bring this up before we get into the whole divine part of this film, which I think is the last part that we can discuss. I think that Katsuhiro missed the mark on having a huge conversation on addiction here, because Tetsuo keeps taking those pills because it helps repress his powers. Like he really could have put in a really big conversation on basically opioid addiction.
I guess I can see that.
Yeah. I think he missed something along those lines, but of course, like you said, the manga wasn't done. He wasn't gonna. How was he gonna keep doing more? And the source material wasn't even finished. So, I think stuff like that, and then of course the religious symbols in here, dude. Like the whole creation of the universe, and these divine entities as these kids who are supposed to be so innocent, and they're basically these other realm creatures where they feel like gods in a sense. And I want to get into that. I think that's going to be one of our biggest meat and structure here of this movie, is just basically the biggest thing I can pull out of this movie is the question: are humans truly real? Are humans truly ready to inherit godlike powers? You have
no.
No, of course not. And that's the whole point. Is those kids talk about like big people like you cannot have these powers because you've already been corrupted by society. You have your preconceived notions of what you want, and you would only use these powers for selfish reasons, as Tetsuo uses them.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that. I think because you give the powers to kids, they don't really know what they have, because they don't have like this notion of just the cruelties of the world and just all sorts of different stuff. Mm-hmm. So what I think is different with the kids, with what you were saying, is that I think the more that you get older and the more cynical you get because of your outlook on society, you start to develop this notion of a god complex.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of what Tetsuo, kind of gets with his powers. And, even though there are moments where Tetsuo truly does disconnect from that god complex, and he wants Kaneda to go and save Kai because she's about to die if she continues being inside the whole mass that he creates, or parts where he snaps out of it. He's like, oh, like he's really surprised to see Kaneda, and then Kaneda kind of gets, into his like whole leadership type of attitude, and then he snaps back into it. But he's not too far gone, but he isn't truly, stable enough to be able to inherit these powers because he grew up in basically in an orphan home, and he has always grown up in a city that was created after his original city was destroyed. So, of course, these kids would not be of course, Tetsuo would not be ready to inherit powers such as this. So it's understandable why the next person to get the powers is Kai, who might just end up being a better a better surrogate. Well, not surrogate. I'm sorry, that's the wrong word. A better suitable person for those powers than Tetsuo was.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think I think that Tetsuo was very aware of his instability, of his like towing the line of just like between, okay, I'm capable of having this, I have my humanity intact, and like, okay, I have this enormous God complex that just is really going to cause me to just do more harm than good.
Yeah, and of course the kids, what's it called? Akira was able to pull Tetsuo out, and I guess and now that Tetsuo will be with Akira, he's able to be taught more about what his powers actually do mean and how he's supposed to act. But you basically, these humans aren't ready, man. These humans are not ready to inherit these powers because they're just not suitable for them. You of course, these kids who are so innocent and have only been it's interesting because these kids have gone through just as much as bad stuff as the humans have, but they're more suited for these powers because they're children who are innocent and they aren't really these what's it called, corrupted creatures like humans, because us humans are such complex fucked up creatures.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I know. It's like
That really does. Yep, for sure. We are. And they are in way gods. And I mean, in a way, I mean, not in a way, man, they really are. I mean, they were able to send them to a different fucking dimension and then pull them out of that dimension and put them back in where they were at. So, if that's not godlike powers, I don't know what is.
and this film just has a way of tackling such heavy topics.
Yeah. And one other thing was, the creationism aspect here. So the scientist, he's like, what is this? And he's like, oh, the creation of the universe now, and this new world that these people are going to be able to inhabit, where, now once again, Neo Tokyo has been struck by another singularity, and now we're going to have to make a Neo Tokyo. And, but now, we're going to start again. Basically start from scratch. And hopefully this time around, the people will be actually able to listen and understand what's going down within the Akira project.
I like this movie now.
Yeah, I like this movie. Has too much of trust within humans.
Yeah, no, and I think that kind of, I think that's what the movie kind of just tries to do for everybody. I think it really establishes this interpretation, like I said, to where it's like, okay, well, what do you think? Do you think that if humans were granted a second chance towards a brand new society, do you think we could do inherently good, or do you think we're just a lost cause that's just going to be phased out?
Yeah. Yeah, and it also shows that, like, this is why I love Man of Steel so much. Remember, it's like, man is not ready to be in the presence of God. They're not. Because the minute these entities are here, they are snatched by the government to be experimented on. They're not ready, man. There's no compassion yet, and there's no curiosity to help learn about them in a safe way. There will always be this sort of malintentional type of notion to want to go beyond the line of what it is to interact with gods. Like, they can't just sit there and learn from each other from a conversation. They have to have a government basically snatch them up and basically subject them to experimentation after experimentation after experimentation.
And I also think that, when, like you said, like, human beings aren't ready to be put in the present.
Mm-hmm.
We don't see it as, oh my God, we finally have one of our questions answered. Let's go about this in a respectable way. Let's go about this in an inquisitive way. We take it as, oh, look, that is the next step that we as a species can take. And it's like, no, you're looking at this all. Just that, but you also, some people will probably approach it with hostility because, like you were talking about, the prejudice towards kids. We're going to approach it with hostility because that's just something that we just don't know.
Yeah.
That we're unfamiliar with and we're uncomfortable with. So it's like we're just going to be like, no, I don't understand that. So we're going to resent it.
Yeah. And then there's so much uncertainty within the race of humans in this film that, like, the government doesn't trust the scientists. The one group that should be trusted more than anybody. I say this even in real life. We should be trusting scientists way before we trust politicians and the military or whatever. And basically, the military complex in here basically pushes aside the scientists and uses them. What's up, Alex? Hold on. Technical difficulties. Hold on. We'll be right back.
Hello?
Small technical difficulties. Sorry, guys. But I was saying that, there's so much uncertainty within the race of humans in this movie, right? The scientists the scientists aren't trusted by the military complex. So then it leads for the scientist to have to, work on his own behind the military complex's, back. And then when they find out the military is just mad and pushes him aside for him to basically work on his own and finds out information that is very vital to the project, but the military is just is just preoccupied with killing Tetsuo and making sure that these entities are still kept inside their facilities.
Yeah, no, and it's definitely the idea of, we have to kill Tetsuo. It's only because it's like, we've already whipped these kids into shape. We've caused these kids to fear us, and it's like this kid, he's a little too, he's a little bit too off his rocker.
Yeah.
He's a little bit too off his rocker. He's too much of a rebellious spirit. Like, he has that, he comes with that rebellious spirit that came with him, his upbringing in the gang, his upbringing with these other kids. And so he has that rebellious spirit in him. He has that emotional limbo that he's going through between the God complex and, his own humanity. So it's like, we can't control that kind of being with this kind of power. So it's like, we're better off just killing him.
Yeah.
He's of no use to us. So why do we keep him around?
And once again, it just shows we as humans are not ready to be in the presence of such creatures, man.
I think not just with gods. I think we're just not ready to be in the presence of anything we just don't understand.
Yeah.
We just to go all social commentary here. We as a species can barely understand one another, let alone try to understand a being of a different planet or a different power to us.
Yeah, and it's crazy because we as humans are really really connected to dogma. These dogmatic symbols and visuals and figures, like we're so connected to them. But at the end of the day, this movie has reiterated once again, we are not ready to confront these dogmatic figures. We're not, because we'll just toss them aside and let the government use them as they need to so we can have a sense of security.
And that's just something that we as humans have done way too often, especially in our U.S. society. We're more than willing to give up our own sense of freedom and create like these prejudice ideas in our heads about these different people of different from different places and whatnot, just for our own semblance of safety.
Yeah. And it's in this film, even if it's set in Japan, it's like I said, it's so very reflective of the world that we're living in right now. And in a sense, I think he does bring up stuff that, how the Japanese country was living at the time of the Second World War and how they placed so much trust and they abided by everything that the emperor was saying. And, they basically adapted to what the emperor wanted.
Yeah. And ultimately, towards the end of the war, we just know how badly it backfired.
100%. And it's just like I said, we as humans are not ready to confront the notion of these figures when we can barely even understand how to confront ourselves. And
I mean, you look, just think of the symbolic nature of, since you were connecting it back to World War II, just of what happened to the original Tokyo in the year, I think it's 1889.
1988, actually.
1988, where the film takes place, the beginning before we go to Neo Tokyo.
Yeah.
Just watching the explosion. He's drawing a lot of heavy influence from, the bombings that took place in Japan towards the end of the Second World War.
Yeah. Exactly, and it's like once again, we have access to these weapons that are cataclysmic, and we have first of all we have no right to have these weapons, and second of all, we have no idea what these weapons can do, and when we start having to use them against others, we set off course of events that could basically annihilate us all.
Yeah, no, and I think, hell, maybe we could even draw the comparisons to the fact that maybe the reason why the military is trying to whip these kids into shape and make sure that, their powers are beneficial to the military is because of the military's own God complex, and they want to play God.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, in a way, that's 100%. I can definitely see that, man. Yeah, and
it's their means of keeping their God complex and feeling like they are the godly beings there, and the mere fact that there's somebody of greater power in just one person, that scares the shit out of them.
Yeah,
because this is an entire organization that governs an entire region of Japan, and here is this one kid with the power to take out, the entire country, and it's like, no, we need that kid at our disposal.
Yeah, and then there's just very few instances where the colonel says, "Are you to ask Tetsuo if he's okay?" But it's only because he's being told by the scientists to check up on him. It's like he doesn't do it because he cares. He could literally unload the whole damn clip into Tetsuo's head and he won't care. But the scientist is the one that keeps pushing, hey, get him back to the lab, please. It is not safe for him to be out there like that. And, when everybody else is just saying, just kill him already. Just kill Tetsuo already. And,
and with you talking about the Colonel kind of reminds me maybe, even tying back to when we were watching Logan.
Yeah.
When in Logan, it's like, they're not viewing him as a human. They're viewing him as a property.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And ultimately what Tetsuo is and what all these kids are just properties. Because if the colonel actually did care about these children when that mass was going on and when the world was when basically those kids were basically about to get killed, he would have run off to help them and to make sure that they'd get out there, but he was still concentrated on killing Tetsuo.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it once again goes to show that there's will always be some sort of preconceived notion to how we interact with stuff like this. And it shows once again that there's that clear power structure within the human race compared to these entities who all are worried about each other and they're just trying to do something for the greater good so that way Tetsuo doesn't die completely off and he gets help from Akira so that way he can further learn to understand his powers.
Man, this movie is just
fucking love this movie. I'm glad we chose to do this, man. Before we head out, you got anything else that you wanted to bring up that we didn't really cover that you saw during the film that you wanted to bring to the attention of the episode?
No, actually, if anything, I just kind of want to be like, I think I'm just kind of just want to think about I really hope Otomo really has his finger on the pulse of the upcoming remake through Sunrise.
Me too.
I'm immensely scared of us kind of sanitizing the story.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know, I that's what I'm scared of, because I always feel like when we stray away from the original creator and his mindset approaching the story,
mm-hmm.
I think that's when we truly, kind of it just kind of gets to be watered down, because I'm trying to remember the creator of Gundam's name. Hold up.
Whew.
I remember his name.
Hold on. Quick Google search, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now.
Nothing wrong with a good old Google search here.
What's your name?
Didn't do the exact research. Yoshiyuki Tomino.
Yes, Tomino. So I always feel like, especially when you go and watch Gundam, Tomino's Gundam stories are always, the pinnacle of Gundam, because, when everybody thinks of, especially when you think of the Universal Century timeline, when you want to go into just the Universal Century timeline,
mm-hmm.
and you think of all of the key installments of like Gundam and then Zeta Gundam,
Yeah.
going all the way towards the final film with Char.
Char's counterattack.
Yeah, those are all Tomino stories, and I think that that's when Gundam's at its best.
Oh yeah, and I think that it's when Gundam is the most nuanced.
Yeah, and it's always when Tomino's at the helm. He writes the story. He's the one directing the film. He's the one, directing the story. I think that's when Gundam's at its clearest. When everyone else tries to get their fingers into the pot, I think that's when Gundam can get very wishy-washy.
Yeah. Yeah, so I hope for the best for this series, because I'll take an anime series before I see a live action adaptation of this any freaking day, guys. Yeah. I will take the Akira series the anime series way before I take that live action film. I think they need to keep that thing locked away as soon as possible. So I really can't wait for this. I do want to know, how does the manga end compare to the film? How it basically ends with Tetsuo being, introduced to the rest of the entities, and he just says, "Hey, my name is Tetsuo Shima," and it's like if we're looking into the cosmos.
I haven't personally finished the manga. I've been meaning to. I'm actually having a tab open, and I'm just like, because there's a hardcover box set from Kodansha of all of the original Akira volumes in its original right to left, which I think right at this moment, I think the box set's the only way that you can get Akira in its original right to left format.
I found a paperback version at that comic shop in the mall.
And I think it's still the left to right.
Oh, okay.
I think a lot of them are still left to right, so it's kind of like, because I like experiencing manga in its original right to left format.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know how it ends. I really want to.
Yeah, me too. I really want to know how it ends. But I guess that's kind of it, man. And I mean, if you haven't seen Akira, they do have the dub and the sub version on Hulu. I really do recommend it. And Alex, how did you enjoy your time here on the Cinema Condition, bro?
Oh, I love getting to do the Cinema Condition anytime I can talk about some of my favorite movies. Like, I can't wait for season 2. We already let it out of the bag that, we're doing
Lebowski and Watchmen.
Lebowski and Watchmen.
Yeah.
Lebowski is, probably one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah.
Well, easily one of my top 5. Easily one of my favorite Coen Brothers movies.
Yeah.
It's just a great movie that I just can't wait to talk about.
Yeah.
And just the insanity that is Lebowski.
Yeah, we're gonna have a big discussion on bowling.
Oh God. Oh my God. I think because I love bowling, I don't know if I would love bowling as much as if I hadn't watched Lebowski. It got to the point where the last time that I went bowling, I wore my Big Lebowski shirt.
Yeah.
I wore a dude shirt to go bowling.
100%. We're gonna have a big conversation on bowling and White Russians.
White Russians, and Viet fucking Nam, man.
Fucking Nam, yeah. So thank you so much, Alex. So we'll see you on the next season. But if you guys want to listen to the other episode that we did with Alex, he was on here for Logan, I believe, and I have to check the letterbox. You actually my list that I made on Letterbox for which is a private list. No, don't go looking for it, guys. I believe Alex is actually booked for 3 films this next season, so he got bumped up. But yeah.
I am now. I just went from guest to reoccurring, guys.
Yeah. Oh no, sorry, man. Yeah, it's only 2. It's only 2. It's okay.
I'm stuck at reoccurring, guys. I haven't gotten the job for Law and Order yet.
No, sorry, man. Leia does hold the record again for next season. She does have 4 picks again. So you're gonna be seeing a lot of Leia. But Alex will be on twice next season, which is all good, man. It's good to take Alex in doses, or else
maybe by the time that we get to season 4, season 5, they'll give me a spin-off movie.
Possibly, right, man? Possibly. So we're gonna go ahead and finish up here. But Alex, where can they find you on the internet, man?
So right now on Twitter, and Twitter's kind of really the only thing I've been using in terms of my social media presence. It's Alex Does Comics on Twitter. That's where you can find me.
Mm-hmm. Alex Does Comics.
Kind of just Yeah, Alex does comics at Twitter. You know, it's about all I'm really using right now.
All right, sweet, man. And as always, you can find me at the Nerd Chicano on both Instagram and Twitter. We have the website as well, thenerdcore.com, where you can check out all the articles I write and reviews for the site. You can check out the Patreon, because Patreon supporters usually get these episodes really early before anybody else. It's just that these last couple of episodes have been pretty much filmed the day before, because scheduling is a bitch during a pandemic. And yeah, that's kind of how it is right now. So at least you guys get them early, in a sense that you get them like hours early. But still, if you guys want to go ahead and check out that, it's patreon.com/nerdcore. And right there, first of all, there is where I will announce the first 5 episodes of Cinema Condition Season 2, and I'll tell you guests and all that. So if you want to learn more about what's coming next after the next 3 episodes, then go ahead and check out the Patreon. So with that, without further ado, it's been a lot of fun. Next episode, we've got a big one planned, guys. We are inviting once again Patrick Grady, my friend, to discuss Stanley Kubrick's incredible, monumental science fiction film. The film that I believe that is the greatest science fiction film ever made. That is 2001: A Space Odyssey. And as always, I do not have an outro. But I remind you guys that it's a fun time when you get to watch new movies and you watch something that kind of is something you're not used to watching. So I really do recommend you guys go and check out something on your streamers. Or if you're like me and Alex, that we have Blu-rays on our shelves that haven't been watched yet and we bought them and never watched them, get that damn Blu-ray. Put it into your player and watch it. And surround yourself with some good art, guys.
But Dad, I don't want to finish Spawn.
But I want, yeah. So we'll see you guys on number 28 next week as we discuss 2001: A Space Odyssey. But we'll see you on the next one, guys.